Good morning, everyone. This is Ludica Petina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News Review. Today we have a set of really good articles that we will go through, and we'll also have Lucinda Linde joining us today. And she has been with us a couple of times, and she always has really wise and expert comments because she's using AI in her job. She's a principal data scientist at Ironside IT data and consulting company in Boston. So welcome, Lucinda. And
Thank you. So
today
excited to be here with this wonderful company.
thank you. So we have John, Lucinda, and Amanda, who is our analyst, and she has been busy finishing her PhD, but she joins periodically. Welcome, Amanda. So let's start with the first article, Ankash, if you don't mind. Great.
Talks about a new functionality from Anthropic about improving your prompts in the developer console.
Okay, we have, who do we have assigned to this? Amanda, do you mind telling us what you think about this one?
Yeah. Thanks, Luda. So I was on the fence on this one because, if you've tuned in the past, I get hesitant with markety type feel whenever I find an article that I feel like there's a lot of marketing going on here about the product itself. So it did have a little bit of that feel, but I teetered on important, just because again, I haven't seen a ton of emphasis on the prompts themselves necessarily. So I thought this was very interesting. And then it went in a little bit about the chain of thought reasoning and things like that, which typically we see with combating like hallucinations, explainability, and things like that. So that piqued my interest a little bit within the article. So again, I'm curious to hear others' thoughts because again, it did have that sort of marketing feel where they were sort of pushing this product on us. But yeah, the prompt piece of it and the chain of thought, I just find pretty interesting here. So what I'm curious others' thoughts.
Okay, Lucinda, John, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was I thought it was definitely important because I think that as an AI leader, I'd really want my people to be able to become excellent at prompting. And for me personally, like I'm actually building applications right now, and I'm thinking I'm definitely using this to try out some ideas because a lot of at the heart of any sort of application is some sort of prompt. You have to communicate with the LLM either with code or with language. And a lot of the important things of the chain of thought reasoning, using examples, etc. I mean, these are all really important. So I'm kind of on the edge of essential here for this one.
Yeah, me too, actually. John, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of between important and essential. I haven't tried the tool yet, which is interesting, but I think that the whole notion of um, the that we're laddering up, progressively structuring different tasks and capabilities, and then adding that intelligence into amplifying our existing intelligence. I think that's a huge issue. And prompt is where one of the highest leverage points is right now. I think as we get more developed, those leverage points will move. But um, I could support essential, definitely important.
Yeah, so Ashish is saying that prompt is the new programming language. I tend to agree with him, and so it's definitely important. Should we go to essential, guys? It comes from Anthropic, so I'm hesitant put it as essential because it's still a vendor announcement that we usually don't put as essentials. But what do you think?
I think it is definitely a vendor announcement, but it's also a very important vendor. And I mean, just in terms of usefulness, when I saw this, I mean, my first thought was, I'm using this today. So,
Okay, essential it is. Thanks. Okay, let's go next.
Okay, the next one that we have today comes from A16Z and it talks about RIP to RPA, the rise of intelligent automation.
Yes, an interesting article. I'm really dying to hear what do you say about it, John.
Well, I tell you, I was going to give it an important and and I don't know, maybe essential. With a colleague, Ben Kaczynski, back in the mid '90s, I wrote an article for a book chapter called "Cognitive Reapportionment," which was basically think about organizations as sets of cognitors, some of them machines, some of them people, and what you need to do is you have to redesign organizations and you allocate decision rights based on context and competence. Very much like the way modern aircraft work, for a fighter pilot. That you've got sometimes the pilot's doing the weapon system, sometimes they're flying the plane. Right? There's reallocation of cognitive responsibilities based on context and competence. So for me, this is heading toward that kind of, and I still believe that's true. 30 years later, whatever. But I think that this notion of moving from RPA to automation, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's got kind of a funky title. It's not the end of RPA. RPA is on the progress of linear sequential automation of existing tasks. That will continue. Now we're dealing with when we get some of that done, then we move to the semi-structured, unstructured stuff, and we start reallocating decision rights to agents. And so I think all this helps, the main theme of computability of the organization, and so I would give it important.
All right, Lucinda, Amanda.
Yeah, so I would also give it an important. I hadn't thought it from the kind of the apportionment of decision making within an organization, but through the lenses of a couple of projects that I'm working on currently. There are a couple of tasks that we're looking at for LLMs. These are mind-numbingly repetitive and meticulous and demanding tasks that just make your brain explode if you had to do them for like 7 or 8 hours a day. And it was, the LLMs just provide this wonderful flexibility to be able to do these jobs without rules-based. If you have a lot of rules, they tend to be brittle and they break. But the LLMs they can kind of smooth over the subtleties of things and make your rules, work much better. So I would definitely put this as important.
Yeah, I was on important as well. Amanda, agreeing, important?
Yeah, I also agree important, and some of the agentic AI I felt mixed in there without coming out and saying some of this is agentic AI and things like that. So I'm on the important side.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I dumped the reference to the paper I talked about, and I see my buddy Ben has also written a new version of cognitive reapportionment for the Journal of Management Information Systems.
Thanks, John.
That in there as well.
Okay. All right. Important it is. Let's proceed. Next one, Ankash, please.
Okay, the next one comes from MIT News and talks about graph-based AI model maps the future of innovation.
Yeah, semantic knowledge. Kind of my dream coming to fruition. Lucinda, what do you think about it?
Well, I thought this was a super interesting article from the point of view of kind of taking diverse ways of looking at solving problems or exploring spaces. So I thought that was very fascinating. Professor Marcus Buehler is integrating kind of generative AI with graph-based category theory and, saying, well, let's look at these 1,000 academic papers. Now let's compare what it looks like compared to Beethoven's Ninth, etc. And so I think the application, the ideas are just really interesting. However, I would still go with optional at this point because number one, it's saying that this should be able to provide new ways to find innovations, but that has not been proven yet, let alone proving anything that can turn into commercial value or products. So I'd say for the AI leader focusing on how do I invest for 2025, this would be optional, but still really interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah, it's either optional or essential. So let's hear others news.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, that's how I rated it, optional or essential. one of my thesis advisors was a guy named Patrick Henry Winston III, which is one of the all-time great American names. Anyway, and he was related to Patrick Henry. He, at the time, he was running the AI lab at MIT, and he told me something which I've never forgotten, which is he said, a lot of times advances in artificial intelligence come from advances in representation, not analysis.
Yeah.
And the example he gave was there was a guy in the lab who was doing recognition of tanks from satellite pictures, and their effectiveness was under 20%. He introduced a vertex language that basically said, are these two things together? Is this a corner? Or 16 primitives in the vertex language that the AI started to look for, and recognition went over 80%. And I think what this is saying is that I'm not a mathematician like you, Luda, but in the n-dimensional space of matrix math, that is a vast expansion of semantic representation that this is now starting to take advantage of. And Stephen Wolfram talked about the fact that LLMs are the first significant advance in our understanding of the structure of language since Aristotle, when Aristotle started thinking about logic, right? And I agree with him on that. And so this is the really funky thing is you can go with matrix math, you can go across different data types. So it isn't just language, right? It's just patterns and correlation. And then the transformer, as I think of it as, if for those of you who've read Dune, it's like the giant sandworm going through this infinite space of search, right? And finding the spice. The transformer has one algorithm to navigate that, combinatorial space to get goodness. And anyway, that long rant is to say, I think this is profound and fundamental. So I'm on the fence in this, but at the same time, I can see an AI leader say, why are you saying I should read this? But
I will give you why. So I'm totally on essential. Remember, the LLMs, as much as I don't want to repeat this, they're statistical parrots. I mean, this is what they know how to do really well. They appear to be intelligent, but they're not. So what this does is gives them that intelligence, semantic connections between things that they can use to actually be good reasoning agents. And what is more, in the underlying paper that was published, what at least appears to me, there is a tool and open to everyone to actually use to take the unstructured and structured data and put it into these graphs. We have some tools, they're not very good yet to create that semantic representation from unstructured data. This is based on a theory, so the specific way of handling this. So that piece I really like. And as a result, you have two things, LLMs and semantic representation of words.
Luda, we're losing you some. Move closer to your.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought it was an essential, profound move forward.
So
Yes.
I just have one comment. What is the difference between this and companies like Neo4j that focus in graph data science? That was my whole thing, because I see this as graph data science, and a lot of companies are already using that tool. I'm advising a company who's literally using that tool to look at relationships and connections and taking thousands of pages of unstructured data to make those connections. Use graph data science so you could see statistically the strength of relationships. So I was struggling to find what is the difference between this and that, which is being used in conjunction with LLMs and companies. So for me, I was more on the optional side of things, because I felt like this was trying to say it's a huge breakthrough, but I feel like companies have been doing this. So unless I'm missing something, I had a totally different take on this article. So just throwing that out there.
This is essentially open source. The second one is, I actually do not know. I haven't compared one and the other, and which type of theory they're using for existing. So it's certainly worth considering. But I think what I'm saying is, if companies, if enterprise leaders have not been using this for wisdom of their vertical or specific knowledge, they should. It, Amanda. That's what I was thinking.
according to Claude, the main differences, because I don't know the answer. According to Claude, the main differences are that the similarities are graph data structures represent the relationships, analyze connectivity, and you want to find hidden relationships. Key differences are that category theory for abstract mathematical relationships is not in graph stuff. The knowledge representation is multimodal, which also sometimes happens in graph stuff, but not really a lot. Reasoning capability is more here, and then the application focus is different than most graph theory stuff. So for me, the representation, thank you, Claude, the representation stuff, I think, and the semantic enhancement is, again, I don't know the graph data theory stuff, just from Claude, would make sense to me as an important difference.
Okay, let's do important, guys, and then move on. Just because this is a good point, Amanda, that there might be others, but that to rival this, and not worth putting it essential yet, but something to watch for sure. Okay, important, guys.
All righty.
All right, let's move on. Thank you. This is great discussion and great topic.
Okay, the next one talks about GenAI deployment for a US nuclear power plant.
Yes. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, kind of like it said in the article, as soon as you hear nuclear and Gen AI, I think people start to get fearful. Yes. but they made sure to say, yeah, but we're kind of looking at to augment human capabilities. We're not taking out a human, it's basically helping humans in decision making by taking, like, I think it's thousands of pages of information. So it kind of softened the blow there. But I do know individuals literally researching using things like generative AI for automation, literally to pretty much automate nuclear power plants. They're literally researching this right now. So I found it interesting. So I think it's funny because it's nuclear. So I'm like, it's important. But you know what? In the end, though, again, we're not talking about tomorrow we're going to totally automate the plant with Gen AI or with AI in general. So I'm on the fence that I could say optional because, I mean, it's using the unstructured data. It's not, nuclear's a different use case, but I don't think the idea, what they're discussing, is necessarily novel. So I could literally go any way on this. So I think I'm between optional and important.
Okay. Lucinda, what do you think?
Well, I guess I would go for optional as well, from the point of view of, they aren't, I don't think they gave a lot of data as to like what the savings would be or any kind of numbers like that. There's another article later on dealing with some energy efficient things. So I go with optional just because it's like, yeah, you can use LLMs to navigate thousands of pages of documentation. So, but
nothing novel. Okay, I was optional as well. John, optional?
Yeah, I think what's interesting here, and we'll see this in the Johnson controls thing too, is that this is enabling. This guy Polanyi in the 60s came up with this idea of tacit and explicit knowledge. And there's a lot of explicit knowledge that by its very volume is not accessible. And this stuff makes it more accessible. And I think we're going to see a lot of it, but optional.
Okay, optional it is. Let's move on to the next one. That is interesting.
Okay, the next one comes from Johnson Controls, and it talks about how they're expanding AI capabilities of their Open Blue Enterprise Manager suite.
Yeah, great use case. What do you think about it, Lucinda?
Yeah, I did think it was a great use case because it really talked about integrating, predictive AI, machine learning, generative AI in a bunch of different ways across like building utilization, kind of having the buildings adapt to the fact that many remote workers are coming in only some of the time and not others. They used it to the generative AI to generate recommendations. The article, interestingly, the press release did not cite savings numbers, but this article did, maybe because they were doing some additional research. But so there actually are some numbers attached to it. As always, I wish there were more details on, on how the use case was built out. What are the components? How does it all work together? So I'd give it an importance. And then I also asked Search GPT. So between Johnson Controls and Honeywell, who's doing a better job, of integrating AI into this kind of, building management aspects? And Search GPT was very diplomatic. It said it depends on how you're judging them. And it felt that, Johnson Controls was using generative AI for the proactive recommendations was really good, that Honeywell was very good at using existing wiring, enhancing cybersecurity, and a comprehensive support for building management, for building management. So, I would view this as important, as I think it's got a reasonable amount of detail for a use case.
Yeah, and a tough industry, right? Saving money and the like. So this is actually in the core of the construction industry. Other thoughts, John, Amanda?
I would just agree with everything that's been said. It sounds great.
Important sounds great. Amanda, okay with important?
I can be swayed because of the statistics. I think the only thing that stood out to me, though, based on the statistics, was it said, and I'm literally looking at the numbers now, 73% of sustainability leaders said they lack that expertise, and only 13% said they have fully integrated building systems. So I'm wondering if that means there's not a lot that are actually using this in practice right now. So I don't know, does that mean it's more optional than important if it's not necessarily... like it's a lot of theory? I don't know, because I'm not in this area at all, so I can't speak to that. But that's one thing that stood out to me in this one.
But turn your argument around. If people are really not using it, that's an example of how to use it and where to use it, right? So, okay, let's put it as important for now and move on.
Okay, the last one that we have for today comes from Wall Street Journal, and it talks about how AI is saving ad agencies a lot of time, and should they still be charging by the hour?
Interesting question. What do you think about it, John?
I guess it's an optional, and for the fact that it just irks me when anybody talks about who's going to get the value without talking about market power, because any automation creates value. Well-targeted automation creates value. That value can only go three places. It can go to the customer at a lower price, it can go to the labor in the firm, or it can go to the investor. And then if you look across organizations, who gets it in the value chain has all to do with where their market power is. And I think, it just seems kind of naive to me. As you automate, are ad companies and service companies going to get price pressure? Absolutely, because they don't have a lot of market power. So important point, badly argued. I don't know. Optional.
Amanda, Lucinda, what do you think?
Amanda?
I can agree with optional on this one.
Yeah, and Lucinda?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they were, from as you're talking about, John, if some competitors start offering fixed prices for certain types of outputs, that's really just going to be a race to the bottom as well. But there also is an opportunity to differentiate. For example, one customer that we're working with, we were showing them what we could do with generative AI, and I was thinking about it entirely from a labor savings point of view. And this person said, now I can go and sell based on our people are more competent, can deliver more punch than my competitors can. So, it could be possible. As you said, the article didn't bring up things like that either. So I guess optional, because it's kind of, one-dimensional, but there's a richer way of looking at this.
Yeah, poorly argued. I would agree with you, John. Okay,
Yeah.
optional it is. It's a good point, and it will be across industries, right? It's
Yeah.
not just in ads. So people are automating lion's share of really routine work, but it's where the value goes. That's really the question that the article doesn't take.
Yeah. When I was at PwC, I put together a little strategy paper, and I imagined a 2x2 matrix where you say, are there economies of scale and scope to the automation? and then is there customer lock-in or not? Okay. If you go across that and you say, okay, there's neither, then you can wait. If there's customer lock-in and economies of scale and scope, you're basically going to have trench warfare like Epic and Cerner are doing in hospital ERPs. If you don't have customer lock-in, you've got economies of scale and scope. It looks like the airlines. You're going to compete all the value down. Airlines, very little differentiation and very bad return on capital, invested capital. And then if you have both, my contention was you're going to have a bifurcated market with people who adopt and lead, and then the people who follow. Anyway, so I think it's a fruitful area.
Okay, thank you, John. Let's see the scorecard for today. Ankash.
Great articles today, Ankash.
Yeah, it was good. So we have 1 essential, 3 importance, and 2 optionals. Happy Friday. That sounds good. Any announcements, guys? So we for our audience, as you know, we are busily putting together the buyer's guide for this year, and it will review 30 AI vendors and trends and the like. So a very important document coming up. And the live event is on the 26th of November at noon. So do sign up, and it's in the letter, in the newsletter. Anybody knows what's happening in AI Learning Lab on Monday? John?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. I saw Paul come on. I thought he'd tell us, so I didn't look it up. Sorry.
We don't know. All right. Thank you very much. Happy Friday. Have a tremendous weekend. Thank you, analysts, for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.